herzlich willkommen to the last weekend of our LEC season here in the Olympiahalle in Munich. Today we kick things up with a rematch between G2 Esports and Mad Lions Core for a spot in a grand season finals. I hope you guys are ready and comfortably seated at home and here in the venue, of course, for a banger weekend ahead. I'm Law and it is my pleasure to open this weekend with GB, Broxa and Medic. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, it's amazing to be here. I'm so excited. It's always a joy to be able to come on a roadshow, and Munich's been so kind to us so far with the EMEA Masters finals yesterday, obviously with BDSA winning. I know we've got Kedui coming on the desk to talk about that in a couple of minutes' time, but also, for a while we thought perhaps there were no stakes for this weekend. You know, it's just seeding going into Worlds, but the third place team from the LEC will be going to play-ins at Worlds. So every game this weekend matters a huge amount.
So you're telling me I can still be let down in play-ins?
That you can, and Mad Lions are still in the running, baby! Let's go!
With a surprising first match that we're gonna get ahead here of us, of course, with Mad Lions going G2 Esports. I feel like at the beginning of the year, that's not the matchup I thought we were gonna have finishing this season, GB.
No, I genuinely think that the ramp up for Mad Lions, all in all, has been incredibly impressive. We all thought that this team was just out, we're not going to see them again. Even if we did, when we saw them in the season finals in the beginning, we all just thought they were going to completely get dumpstered by any other team. What did they do? They take down G2.
Meanwhile, Broxa, Fnatic, comfortably seated in the finals already, waiting for the opponents.
Yeah, but what I think is beautiful about this weekend is that for once it doesn't feel like we have a super clear favorite going into it. All these teams are beating each other left, right and center, and that means we have a very, very open weekend where both today and tomorrow anything can happen.
I mean, yeah, given the way the playoffs have been going, it's kind of hard knowing what's going to happen tomorrow, but enough from us for now. We got an amazing audience here on stage, so let's send it over to our favorite caster in the audience, Hysterics. Take it away.
Favorite caster, I love it, I love it. Yeah, okay, we like that. I'm standing by with G2 fans because they weren't hard to find. I went through asking, who are you a fan of? G2. Introduce yourself and why you're here for G2, why you love this team.
I like them from the streams, from clips, I watched them since February this year. Yeah. I just love them.
Love is good. Your friend as well. I asked the same question. He's like, yeah, G2.
Yeah, G2, of course. Caps. I watched him since he started at Fnatic, so yeah.
And if you could say something to these guys to get them ready for the game, because I know going in it's always trepidatious, it's quite difficult. Even with the experience they have, what would you say to them to get ready to today? If it was to Caps, your favorite player, starting with you.
You got this. Easy. Play something funny in mid lane.
You're fantastic. Anything you could say to your favorite player?
Again?
Anything you could say to your favorite player from G2?
Broken Blade, I love you.
Hell yeah, that's all we need now. Thank you very much to these gents, G2 fans. Again, G2. And then I came back and I was like, oh, surely Mad. This gentleman said, no, come with me. But this guy, give a round of applause for the Mad Lions fan, sitting amongst all. This guy, he put his thumb down. It could have been a lot ruder. Introduce yourself and tell me why Mad.
So basically, I'm Mateo. I'm from Colombia. It's pretty easy. I've been following EY for a long time ago, and I feel super confident with this team, and it represents especially Spain and Latin America as hard as hell. And there is one word in Spanish that represents that much. This team is ilusión. That's basically what remembers me, this team for sure.
And I'll ask you the same question. If you had one thing you say, favorite player first of all from Matt.
So I will say El Joya for sure. Basically, I can say to him that Destroy Jag is going to feel the dust today, and it doesn't matter. We're confident 3-0. It's going to be super simple.
I like this guy. The support for Mad Lions. If you're out there, come on, cheer on the brethren. Law, the crowd is building up. It's getting hyper. And I can't wait for this best of 5, so I'll throw it back to you.
Thank you so much. Hysterics back to us. I'm actually wondering what is going to be the balance in the audience between the G2 fans and the MDK fans. We're going to find out a bit later, of course, but we have a guest that joined her here at the desk. Kedui, thank you so much for joining us. Have you been able to rest? Have you been able to celebrate since last night? Congrats again on winning EMEA Masters.
Thank you, thank you. It was kind of short, to be honest.
Yeah.
The rest and all of this and the celebration were kind of long. But I'm also really happy to be watching this game today here in the arena with everyone. So yeah, it's just awesome.
I'm going to ask you about your prediction a bit later, but now that you had a couple hours, some sleep to let the victory sink in, how do you feel? How do you reflect about the series you had yesterday, the overall run you had with BDS Academy at this EMEA Masters?
Yeah, it was an insane year Masters, to be honest. The first one that I ever win. I think as Team BDS we had tough opponents from the start already. We already played against KC in the quarters. We played against Heretics, one of the best teams from Spain. And now against one of our rivals in the LFL, Vitality B. So yeah, we were just always playing against tough opponents, and I think we did good.
I'm happy that the crown stays in the LFL, though, GB. But
of
even if it
course
was
you
maybe
are.
not the most exciting matchup for you guys, I do feel like the scale we're tipping in BDS Academy's direction either way for this final.
No, absolutely. I mean, I completely agree with you as well. You're playing up against some super good teams as well throughout that entire tournament. But even then, that makes that final so much more impressive. Pretty much every single member on BDS Academy was just a star of their own right. And I remember an interesting answer from you as well, saying that you had to develop, not just be the star player anymore, because your entire team was filled with stars suddenly. How do you reflect on having to change that? Because you stayed together for a year. What's the process been like?
I mean, it was really hard at the start, right? As I said yesterday already, where everyone in our team is individually very good, way better than the average opponent in our league. And yeah, that means that there's a lot of resources that that people want to take, and as an ADC you usually are the one that takes all the resources, and in this team it was really hard to balance it. So yeah, I had to develop into a new role at the start of this team, and at the start I had really big struggles with it, but I think I adapted really well throughout the year, and now I'm really happy with how it's going with Aaron.
We mentioned it yesterday. You won Summer, you won EMEA Masters Final, you won MVP. Maybe it was the last dance for you guys with this lineup, but of course the future is bright for all of you. It feels, at least, when you win so much.
Yeah, it's like the same in every year where the contracts are starting to run out, and obviously every player that is playing in the ERL is looking at LEC at the end of the year. And yeah, all of us try to prove their best, try to prove their worth in this split. So we're all just hoping to be in LEC next year.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I was about to say, there was a lot on the line for all of you guys yesterday, right? And when you're playing at the very top of EMEA Masters, the next step is the LEC. And well, if you're like this man next to me getting MVP, then I would say you definitely have taken a good step in the right direction.
A lot of potential within the lineup overall, I feel, to see a lot of players being promoted in the LEC, don't you think?
I mean, I genuinely agree. It's one of those things where we are very lucky with our Tier 2 system that we have. We're very lucky to have as passionate regions as we do, especially France, Spain as well, but also Turkey coming through now to the EMEA system. So I think the growth of future players is going to continue coming.
Kedui, last question for you. Throughout all the success, all you guys have been through with this BDS Academy lineup, what will stay? What will you remember the most?
Probably this final.
Yesterday,
probably the celebrations with the team, and also just the team dynamic that we had throughout all here. Everyone really loved playing with each other, and yeah, there's a very big chance that this is not going to happen again. This team will not play together probably next year. So I just like to remember those moments we had as a team.
Not together, but against each other.
Yeah,
next time, hopefully, into a bigger stage. Before I let you go, any predictions for today? MDK versus G2. With the
okay, as BDS, we have. I can say that we have practiced against G2, and they have looked insanely strong, stronger than ever before. So I predict a big G2 win, maybe a 3-1.
3-1, we'll take it. We'll see your predictions a bit later. Yeah, okay, I think the crowd likes it, of course. But I feel like, Kedui, thank you so much for joining us today. But I do feel like, guys, that's what we want to hear, especially with Worlds being around the corner, especially because we want to have all the teams at their maximum strength leading into Worlds. So when I hear Kedui telling me that G2 looks strong, we're going to find out about this today, because when you think about Worlds, I feel like the audience is not really optimistic when it comes to what we should be doing at Worlds and what we could be doing at Worlds this year. But guys, Worlds in Europe, usually we perform super well. Can we believe? Do we want to believe?
I want to believe. I'm not sure if I can yet.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest. I'm a little bit worried for how we're going to do at Worlds. It's a bit of a challenge this year, I think.
You're sounding a little bit like an NA fan to me, to be honest. Do you have no faith? What is going on here?
Someone just has to motivate me, you know? Maybe I'll get faith eventually, but I definitely don't have it right now.
I've seen miracle runs countless times in the past coming out of the likes of Fnatic, G2, we even saw Splice, Misfits bringing surprises, and ultimately all these teams going into Worlds didn't have that big expectations, but sometimes things just click, and I think for a team like G2 that haven't looked super dominant in, you know, season finals so far, them finally being challenged could be what is pushing them to go the next step and actually compete with the best decent teams.
And that's the thing, all 3 teams we have this weekend are going to be competing at Worlds. It's just a matter of seeding. So I'm going to go roll that a bit here and think about MSI. Went well, right? Right?
Yeah, it went pretty well. We managed to beat Top Esports, right? Like, I'm happy with that. Going into MSI, I didn't have a huge amount of confidence. G2 then surpassed that confidence, you know, overthrew my expectations of them. And then in summer, they really struggled, right? And we haven't seen them really bounce back to that form. And often G2 is a barometer for how good Europe is going to look, right? So if everyone's losing to G2 and G2 don't look that good, I have to be a little bit worried.
And Broxah, when it comes to this, you know that it's just about peaking at the right time. And when you think of all the 3 teams that we're sending right now and how strong they're becoming across the season and across the end of the year, where is the biggest hope here? I don't want to hear G2, I want to hear something else.
Well, I do quickly want to say that there's 2 ways to look at this. I think, you know, teams looking a little weaker in regular season and struggling a bit could be seen as potential for failure, but I think more than anything it's just opportunities to grow and really improve coming into this tournament.
We have GB hyperventilating. Are you okay? Are you gonna be fine?
It's the LEC, Corby, I'm saying it. We keep getting told by the Doomers we're not gonna make it, and it's over. So what the hell is stopping us from throwing our monitors out the window and saying, yeah, our supports keep dying. Reddit hates us. Caps is our region. The LPL will crush us. Chovy is gonna crush us. We might be doomed. It might just be EU and me, but that's okay, because do we really need anyone else?
I mean, reminiscing feels nice.
Yeah, you've convinced me. You've convinced me. I'm on your side, GB.
You need a little
Do we
more
really
motivation?
need anyone else?
Did
It's
you
all
get the motivation?
Let's go!
I'm gonna leave you guys living the past for now, awaiting the future. I'm gonna send it over to the stage in just a few moments, crowning our 2024 LEC MVP of the year.
G2 moving into the bottom side of the map. Goes over the wall, just wants to try to take Humanoid out. Q dashes in, again, ulti coming through. Q, ult 2, is it going to be enough? Humanoid trying to flash to safety. Caps going golden, Caps! Flash, and he's out! He's out!
Rather than just going all in and pressing their R's on the same target, or just try and win out in a side lane. Vladdy's going to jump back, Caps jumping forward, flashes away from the Q3 and takes the kill. Akana's here to try and stop the party, and Caps is dodging everything!
Hold over Odo.
A frustrating game for Giant X.
What? The damage is crazy! As long as Ice is up, there's hope. Baron already over, but Caps! He flashed over the wall to seal the deal. That's 180 carried down. Nice. FLICKR drags the timing comes back.
It's clapped! Everybody, you know the story, you know the legend! And once again, let the skies descend!
Caps truly does control the stars in this game.
The skies now descend again, the damage is just busted. He flies on in, gets stopped by a couple of soldiers. Caps
now runs the map, runs the world, and G2 run the head. Potential Quadra ticking away, there it is. Where's my Penta? Just give it to him, and finally, well-deserved Penta kill. It's clapped! Everybody, you know the story, you know the legend.
Munich, give it up for your 2024 LEC season MVP, Caps.
Thank you.
It's pretty heavy.
Thank you, thank you.
No problem. Caps, congratulations. You have won this award a couple of times before, but what does it mean to get the award here and to get that accolade in front of all these fans who are hoping that you will once again perform something supernatural this weekend?
I mean, definitely means a lot. I'm super happy to be back in a huge stadium. I'm super happy to win the MVP title, and hopefully it's starting off with an even better finish this weekend.
Absolutely. You've won a couple of these. This is your fourth, so I have to ask about how you feel about what you've done this year. If you feel like you've taken another step forward, if there is more or different motivation going into your play and into what you do with your team.
I mean, definitely. I think we've had a few off years, and I've also had not the best performances, but I definitely think it's been getting better this year. And I think we are in the lower bracket, but we still have a lot to prove. And with Worlds in Europe as well, I think this could really be our year.
I'm glad you brought it up. Usually it's magic when Europe or when Worlds is in Europe. Rather, do you feel that motivation already, knowing that you've qualified and knowing that you're looking for that first seed?
I mean, definitely. I think making it to the big stadiums, I think also like last week against BDS, of course, like we really want to make it here. And now we also really want to go into Worlds with a championship and being the #1 representative and really having all the things going well for us. So yeah, we're gonna look to do as good as we can.
We've called it the Grand Slam. Here are the shields that you already won this year. Last year you weren't able to get all of them. Can you tell me about how difficult it is to keep that high level of play for the entire year? There's a reason it is so hard to win all 4.
I mean, definitely a lot of different metas, a lot of different things have happened, especially this year, and looking at like summer split. And we've definitely had some downwards moments, but I think we're starting to solve things and figure things out. I can see that we did the interview today and not tomorrow, so maybe Riot is not trusting us. Maybe Riot is not trusting us, or maybe you're not, but we will make it tomorrow, and we will also show up tomorrow.
I can not comment on the planning of the show, but Caps, you're up versus MDK now, and you know they are the forever underdogs that keep surprising us, and they also surprised you, I want to say, a couple of weeks ago. How do you feel about this rematch, and what are going to be the key points, knowing that they love being the underdogs and that they want to take you down again?
I mean, definitely, I think last time we played them, we had no idea what we were doing or what they were doing. But this time I think we have a pretty good read on Matt. I think they always try to be very unpredictable, but I think we have a good read on them. And yeah, we're just going to come in strong and show what we've been practicing the last few weeks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Munich. One more time for your 2024 LEC MVP
Thank you.
Caps. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more action.
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Lore!
Red Bull gives you wings.
G2 are the most successful organization EU has ever seen. Don't be afraid, it's not a monologue, there's 2 of us, just you wait. But ever since G2 entered the LEC in 2016, they they had a wind of change go through the league, and they stacked up those titles. And to add insult to injury for Fnatic, they took their mid laner and won even more. We always thought it would be Fnatic that would give them a run for their money, that would give them those finals we could only dream of, but it was an unexpected foe that threatened the crown.
When Mad Lions joined the league in 2020, they had a solid first year, but it always felt like there was something missing. In 2021, they added the rookie jungler Elioya to their ranks, and from there, they rose to infamy, becoming only the third ever team to win back-to-back titles in the LEC. And although 2024 has been a roller coaster of emotions for their fans, just like in winter, they find themselves atop the podium once again, looking for first place.
And I love how we see so many similarities between the two, but also juxtapositions. We have some of the most experienced players of Europe on the stage today, up versus some of them who haven't gotten that many reps of the big stage. But I think we can see the similarity between them in terms of the motivation of what they want to show here today, not just now, but hopefully also tomorrow.
And the question for MDK is that motivation enough? Is Elioya and 4 friends enough to topple the giants that are G2? Can they go from the underdogs to the undercats and pounce on their prey?
I love what you did there, but it is true, everybody has always underestimated them. Hell, I did it and I had to eat my words, but they are the best underdogs you could dream of, and they want that title. But G2, they're in the lower bracket, and a wounded animal is often the deadliest. Who will make it to the grand final tomorrow?
It is crazy to think that we're opening this weekend with one of the most established, successful organizations that we have in the league, facing off against maybe some of the newest players that actually entered the league this year. I'm really wondering what we're going to see today, who's going to come on top, who's had the best time and the best practice to come in ready today. First and foremost, we have a new guest joining us on the desk today. I have so many guests for this pre-show today. Odo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, and I'm super excited to be here because so far this split, it has looked like MDK has been the Achilles heel to G2.
Yeah, and when you think of G2, it's maybe the best attempt, it's maybe the best try they had at this golden road. I don't know if I want to call it golden road.
We need
the golden shielded road domestic. Yeah, well, gonna go.
That's a lot of cope.
I feel like we should crowdsource it. So if anyone can come up with a good name for when you win all the shields and you win the season finals, do it, because we're not good enough.
Might as well let Twitch chat do it, at this point.
Okay, we're not going that far yet. but you're completely right? Yeah. I mean, G2's been dominant the entire year. They've just been the team to beat. I will say they've had a little bit of dump towards the end of this year, but they've been ramping up from when we saw them against MDK to when they played against BDS to what we probably will see here today. You can never really count them out, and I know we say it a lot, but it's because of all the things they've done in the past.
And I'm really excited because we've always looked at G2 as, the one hope of Europe. We need more strong teams in the region, and right now that we have these strong teams in the region, we're still complaining about it.
I do have to say though, everything that's happened before now, earlier this year, doesn't matter anymore because we're playing in this massive stadium. There's so many fans in here already ready to watch. And ultimately now is when these rookies from MDK are really going to be put to the test and where we're going to be able to see if they can perform under this kind of pressure.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not been Fnatic who's been beating G2 when it's been mattered. Like in the past couple of years, it's been MDK. Yeah. We already saw it early in season finals. We saw it last year. There's a reason why G2 didn't complete this road last year, because they lost to MDK. And they're here again. We thought they were gone, but they always manage at the end of the year to rise.
And Odo, you've been there. In this situation, as Broxa was saying, what you did before really doesn't matter. Is what you're going to do this weekend, the form you're going to be at this weekend, that's going to matter. And maybe in the hope of defying expectations, because maybe people got clapped by the same team all year. But I mean, you're one who knows that you can overcome your demons when it matters the most on this stage, actually.
Yeah, and I was in G2's shoes because I got knocked out in whatever upper bracket somewhere, and I ended up here in G2's shoes where I have to play against the team. Well, I did play G2 in the final, so that changes a little bit. But yeah, like, our form in that season wasn't really good. We were losing a lot. We weren't as dominant as before. But then come to a big stadium like this, a lot of things change because there's a lot of energy, how experienced the roster is, with how much nerves are you playing, and a lot can change today.
And being in an arena like this, as you said, Brox, I can change a lot of things because either you're going to have the crowd cheering for you, supporting you, or you're going to be on the other side and be fueled by the fact that the crowd is not cheering for you. But here you have one of the most experienced lineups and players who played on this kind of stages before, and on the other side you have MDK. But I feel like they have this experience because we saw them on stage last year in Montpellier against KC, against one of maybe the biggest fan base you have in ERL. So for me, they're coming ready today. They have this stage experience.
They do have some, but it's always a little bit different when you go up against the likes of G2, who seems to be having a mental advantage over pretty much every single team in Europe. And when you're fighting to get, you know, those higher seeds as worlds, to become the best team in Europe, there's a lot of your mind. And I think at this point for the players, 50% of it is how good they are at playing the game, what their skill ceiling is and all that. But the other 50, it's all mental.
I mean, you say that, but I'm also looking at my screen, and Zuba was kind of just yawning and just kind of sitting in his chair getting ready for this game. I mean, MDK, they were the first team to prove that G2 can be beaten. So in terms of mental block, they're not the one I expect to have it against them.
And for me, it's a match made in heaven, because when we look at the teams and usually what it takes to beat a team like G2, you need either stronger mental fortitude or just to be this laid-back kind of gang like MDK is right now, because we even saw it before. In every game they're going through, oh, we're going to win. We're the favorites, even though they have lost historically most of those matchups. But now they're like, oh, we're going to win. Because when everything gets really, really stressful here, atmosphere like that and attitude like that is what's gonna pull you through.
And I feel like it makes it even more exciting when you consider the results from the last time this team faced off against each other. Going in favor of MDK, as you said it, GB. What changed since then? On the side of MDK, but mostly on the side of G2.
Yeah, I mean, from G2, we've been hearing it. They didn't really have enough prep going into that game against MDK. They brought out the Nocturne. That didn't really work either. I think if you take a look at the drafts that's then since then happened from G2, you can see that they've kind of changed their philosophy back to what worked for them even back in MSI. Getting caps on an AD champion in the mid lane as well to just make sure that they're actually able to have an AP jungler, play the damage stylistic that you honestly need.
And I think what's really interesting is that they walked into that series not really knowing what's going to happen. And yeah, Caps' champion pool got tested in that series. And ever since then, he went away from this AP mages, and the whole G2 team had a complete shift in identity, because you walked into this MDK squad not really knowing what's going to happen. You got hit with the Lulu, with the Corki top, with the Zeri, and everything went completely downhill from that. And after that, we saw a revitalized G2 where they're like, okay, we got meta checked. Things didn't really work out, and now it's on us to innovate again and figure out what is the best thing for our team.
And do you feel like this was really the big difference maker in G2's new form? The fact that we saw Caps on a different champion pool, maybe being set up by different aspects of his teammates. It brought them success, but I'm just wondering if it was the right approach, and that's what is going to help them today.
I think that was part of it, but in a lot of ways, I think G2 were testing a lot of different strategies in the first series versus MDK, and it really leveled them up, because sure, the draft, the champion pool adjustments are one thing, but it's also about the way that they approach macro, the way that they approach early game. And before, they were more lenient to give smaller advantages away that would then add up, whereas the G2 that we've seen now, playing at their best in their most recent series, are just dominating all the way throughout.
Yeah, because this is what we've been seeing from G2 a lot, because when they were really, really good, they would walk into every skirmish acting like they're always going to win the skirmish no matter what. But right now, it's like they're walking into skirmishes, they're losing, and they're like, oh, well, maybe we should stop skirmishing so much. And ever since we saw in the BDS series, when they started slowing the game down, it became just this normal G2 walk in the park where they're just clearly dominant.
What was interesting, reading from an interview that Mickey gave to Sheep Esports, is that he said last time against MDK, they were not prepped enough. They didn't have enough tools in draft, especially to come and ready against Mad Lions crazy enough and what they brought in draft. And I'm wondering first if they have enough tools today, and second, what is going to happen, because MDK picked a red side, so they're going to make use of these counter picks.
I think the cool thing about this matchup is that MDK has kind of used G2's old strength and what they were known for in terms of the flexibility in draft, ability to play all these surprising picks across a lot of different roles against G2's now overtake them and, you know, beat them earlier in the season finals. And we're seeing it right here as well. So unique champion pools across the board here in the top lane specifically. It's both sides, but generally, draft is going to be a banger. And I'm curious to see if G2 is going to bring that, you know, flexibility back and now be the one to surprise MDK.
I also think this graphic doesn't really do justice to the story of these teams, because the way they operate is that they had complete identity shift. Broken Blade has been taking a step back here. He's playing more safe champions. It feels like G2 found this identity where, okay, we have stronger individual components elsewhere as well. Maybe we don't have this flexibility in the top lane because of the Nidalee being a problem. But right now, they have Hans to rely on him. They have Caps making this shift in the champion pool, and he's playing really good. And Yike, back to the roots with his carry champions, AP champions, and it looks like the whole G2 squad is revitalized.
Yeah, but you still can't underestimate Red Side on MDK. Like, we've seen what it's done. And even though we've seen in Italy to some success and some, well, the opposite of success, failure, I suppose, it's not just Mune as well who's coming in with different champions. We saw it from Friskawi as well in the mid lane. MDK is just one of those teams right now where they have stolen the G2 vibe. They are the kind of team that will say, okay, screw it, we'll lock in this pick, seems good enough, let's try this, let's go with that. They don't feel like they can make a mistake, and because of that, they're always coming in confident to the game.
But I also think that now it's up to G2 again to realize, because last time they faced BB with his picks with the cannon and the Aatrox and everything that he played also against BDS and GX, he's inviting these sorts of counter picks because he felt like he can take these sorts of matchup no matter what because they're just the superior team. But right now, I feel like the adaptations they made against BDS was the right approach, where again, they let other people carry and then they just neutralize top lane because he's really good at that.
One thing I'm looking forward to finding out today is who's going to do the best in terms of macro rotations, when to fight in mid and late game, because this is something MDK did really, really well the last time the two teams faced. And we memed a lot in the Nidalee top last week when they mashed up against Fnatic, but I think ultimately the reason they lost wasn't so much the Nidalee, it's the fact that they were a bit lost and took fights at the wrong time with wrong setups in mid and late game.
And also the front door.
Well,
and the front door is a thing too.
That too. But I think ultimately this is the one area where you need to be able to match G2 or they're going to steamroll you.
Final thoughts on top lane, Odo. I wanna know what you think about this Nidalee, because Yoya clearly doesn't like it. Mirvin does. Comfort pick. Do you want to stay on this kind of champion today? I don't feel like you can surprise G2 the way you surprised them last time with this.
You can't surprise them, but they did have this sort of miracle draft in Game 4 where they had Nidalee, LeBlanc, Ivern, and Ed. It looked like the most atomic thing ever. It looked like it made no sense at all, but it was genius because MDK, credit to them, they're always the sort of team where they find unique win conditions into the game. They're the first team who played Ivern with 4 ADCs, and everyone was like, again, what is this? And then it just showed that it's genius. So you just can't take it away from them because you always say that it doesn't make sense, but it does make sense. But at the same time, what I want them to do is this: pick Nidalee, but also make clear win conditions somewhere else, because Nidalee is going to get you to the early mid game, going to get you to 20 minutes in a good position in the game, neutralize top lane, but then it's up to others to carry the game.
You know what? Enough from us for now. I actually want to hear from the players, because Shox had the chance to check in with Broken Blade and Mirvin earlier about the matchup they have today in the Marriott Bonvoy pre-game lobby.
I've got Merwin and Broken Blade here ahead of their rematch, and I want to say this is the most exciting rematch. I know you're all salivating, so I just want to know first from Broken Blade, have you looked at the matches versus this guy? Have you eradicated the mistakes? What were the lessons?
Of course, I looked at the matches. Obviously, we didn't go into the series thinking Mad Lion's going to win. They showed up. Props to Mervin for that one. I hope he can perform today as well, because this time I'll be more ready. It's going to be a big stage. It's very exciting. I always love the big stage. So yeah, it's going to be very exciting. I'm excited what Mervin has in store for me today.
That is the million-dollar question. Do you have more in store? What was the philosophy in preparing for this match versus Broken Blade, knowing that you've beat him before?
I mean, I think it's not like something different. I think we approach every match like the same way, more into like the two remaining teams. So I think I have more things like to show for sure. It's not that easy because I think I showed like 5 new picks. So it's not like you can innovate always, but I have some things for sure, yeah.
I have a follow-up because a lot of people are talking about the Nidalee pick. Some people say the Nidalee is the reason that the series was lost versus Fnatic. I know Brox on the desk is saying no. I actually think MDK as a team didn't play as well as they wanted to, so I'd love to know your perspective.
I mean, I don't care what people say, honestly. I mean,
care what Brox says now.
Yeah. I just trust what my team thinks, my staff, so if it works for us, it will keep working, I will keep thinking, so just that.
Makes sense. If you're winning, why would you change anything? It's you, actually, that has to change something, I guess. But talk to me about, you said it already, being in Munich and the fact that this is usually where you thrive and how you're looking forward to making the revenge come true.
For sure, it's just very, like, whenever there's a big crowd, I feel like, especially us G2, we devour the crowd, you know, we use their energy to play better as well. We really love the pressure. And yeah, ever since we lost against Matt, we are very excited, very motivated as well to you know, bounce back because we have lost. We need to show not only to ourselves, but everyone that we are still there, you know, we're still the best, and we want to prove it today.
Okay, lovely. Good luck, you two.
I love this kind of interviews, having two opponents with each other, actually, because it's the moment you can throw the opponent off by just like spreading misinformation all along.
But I feel like they were very respectful towards each other, even though like they could have thrown in a bit trash talk if they wanted to. But no, BB just ready for the crowd, and Merwin clearly showing that he's still ready for whatever comes out in that top lane.
And Merwin is just there as being like, oh, I have more. And then at this point, probably BB is like,
oh no.
How much more can this man have? Because he's already brought up and cooked so much more than we thought you would see him cook. But now I'm really excited if it's. But honestly, I think it's PR answer, and for sure there's not going to be more. Like, surely not more champions are going to come up.
Speaking from experience here, or?
Yeah, I mean, especially in an interview face to face, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I'm better than you. Yeah, I'm gonna show you that my picks are so good and everything." And I'm like, "Okay, chill out. Kassante's coming 5 games in a row. Take a deep breath." Because Merwin has played ever since he showed the Nidalee. His last series has been in Cassante and Nidalee, so I'm like, okay, relax, take a little deep breath over there.
But we're talking about MDK, who've been saying consistently throughout the year that they don't really come with a plan. Whatever the flavor of the day is going to offer them and whatever they feel like picking. And they proved it last week again, actually. When I've talked to the coaches, they were like, no, I mean, the players were feeling these kind of champions. I do feel like they're going to come with a plan. But in the moment, one of these players feels like playing something that was completely not prepared. I do feel like that's the kind of stuff you can still expect from MDK, even in a game like this.
I feel like this is really a double-edged sword for this team because it's rarely at this level with the top teams in the LEC. You see the players having so much power in terms of what they're going to draft. The coach admittedly saying that they have a lot of freedom to do almost whatever they want. And I think that makes them very, very difficult to prepare for, to draft against, because you have no clue what's about to come.
Especially because I was part of both these philosophies, in the sense where you're like, okay, you need to practice what you play, you need to play what you practiced. But also when we won in Malmo against G2, which is funny, we also went completely the Mad Lions approach, where we're like, okay, play what you want. Trimby, what do you want to play? Oh, Trimby, you have Soraka Kalista, which is like, it doesn't really make sense, but when you're feeling it on the day, this sort of comfort is what throws you off guard, and it's especially, I think, today what they need against G2.
I just think it's so interesting because all the words you're using to describe MDK as a team right now, you go 2 years back, these are the terms we'd use to describe G2. It's completely flipped with the switch here, but it also just means that both teams are in a position where if they're feeling it, they can bring it out. I mean, we saw BB with a Galio top as well. Let's not forget that, right? So it's really up for grabs for anything.
Expect the unexpected from the solo lanes, from the carries on each side of the team, but I feel like if we focus on the jungle from both sides, this is when we can expect something more standard, because while Yike is still recovering from what I feel has not been his best performance so far in the playoffs, Yoya, I feel like he's completely riding the wave and going in that MDK's direction of fake it till you make it, I want to say.
Okay, if that's what we're saying, yeah. But I mean, yeah, I completely agree. I think in terms of G2 right now, I know a lot of people still have some question marks around Yike, and I think some of them are fair criticism when they're out there. He's still an incredibly gifted jungler. He's got a flexible champion pool. When he's locked in and got the confidence, he can pretty much bring out anything. But you're right, Lol, he is going up against Alyoya, the captain of MDK, and honestly, he's been the most improved jungler in this tournament with the ramp up he's had with MDK from what we saw in summer to what we've now seen in season finals.
Jungle isn't that fun right now, Roxa, I feel.
Well, I think it depends on what approach you're having, because you could be the type of player that plays Maokai every game, or you can play the fun stuff like Syra and Brand, and I think both of these players really can do both now. Here in Playoff specifically, I believe we've only seen Yike play the Brand and Syra so far, but ultimately they both can do it, and I think really for both teams, there's a high chance we're going to be seeing the utility-style junglers. You see it right here on your screen, the Ivern, the Maokai, the Vi, because often when the pressure is on to this extent, games are a little bit slower, in which case having the very, very powerful team-fighting junglers can make a big difference.
Especially with Yike making this transition back to these sort of individual power picks with the Brand, with the Zyra, because what we saw a lot in the MDK series is picking this sort of main engage utility type of champions with Vi and Nocturne. Not saying that Maokai is not a main engage utility type of champion, but he's a lot more reliable in that sense because he can farm fast, gives a lot more flexibility. You're not really forced to make a play at level 6 to take over the game. And right now, it feels like with this shift, it's comfort zone again for G2.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just seemed like as soon as they found a better system in place at G2, we talked about it earlier with Caps with the AD champions, BB on a champion that's just more absorb pressure and then let other people carry. It just felt like he was locked better into a system like that. So I'm expecting all the Cyrus and Maokai's and Brands today.
And I think that's the beauty of the jungle meta right now. Maokai often is being first picked right away if it's open, but once that's down, you can go pretty much any route. And with BB and Cavs playing so many AD champions, someone like Yike has the opportunity to log in any of these, current AP junglers as well.
Is there space for more though? Because when I've been looking at the other major regions, LCK mostly, it feels like pro play became solo queue. I'm talking about Garen, other champions that I did not expect to see in pro play, but I'm just have the feeling that jungle is not as flexible as these solo carry positions. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the meta is full of surprises here.
It's more like the cherry on top, the seasoning, what you complemented with, right? You see all the different changes in the mid lane, but then suddenly Yasuo is buffed. What works well with Yasuo as well? A ton of junglers practicing Diana once again in solo queue to make this work. I could easily see Elyoya bring out a Diana and say, we're following me, I'm the engage. But this is the different flexibility. In a meta like this right now, you need to be able to play the ADs, the control mages for when you fall back to that comfort, and the third option that you have no idea is before you actually just lock it in.
And there are other AP junglers like the Lilia, the Taliyah. We've seen Nidalee coming out of the likes of Fnatic that is almost must-ban against Razork at this point. And I think what is cool is that while there's some shared champions between all the teams, each jungler has their own preferences, their own, flavor, so to speak. And I don't think we're fully done. I wouldn't be surprised to see a new jungle pick showing up today.
I would say so as well, because right now there's also this rise of neutralizers in pretty much every lane, because when you have a lot of marksmen everywhere, everything's kind of neutral. It opens up the avenue for jungler to just farm and lay back, and then all of a sudden become a main carrying factor, especially with Nasus as well. We haven't seen it in LEC, but I am expecting it to happen with it being such a strong pick. So yeah, it's just full way ahead for all the AP junglers and everything you want to play to become a main carry in the game.
I want to hear from the man himself, actually, in the jungle. Elyoya, and hear his thoughts on the meta. Maybe he's feeling ahead of this amazing and important series for MDK here. And Shox also had a chance to chat with him in the Marriott Bonvoy pre-game lobby.
Elyoya is here with MDK, about to play in front of the amazing crowd in Munich in the rematch versus G2. But first I want to ask you, Elyoya, because I feel like we didn't get much time to do it yet, but you reflect on not only the week past where you qualified to the World Championship, but also the whole year that you've had, the risk that you took with these guys, the leadership that you exuded, and how you look back on the road.
I think it's been, so far, the most stressful year of my career. Also the most I have had my happiest moments this year, so I'm really grateful for all the work we have put in, and I'm really happy that it finally showed up. And like for me, we're just the finals winner already. So with all the work we have put, we have worked more than anyone else. So today we just got to enjoy.
I'm glad you said that, because there has been a big topic about work ethic and the motivation of players. Can you say something about the motivation you feel that you felt in your group and the coaching staff and these players, knowing that, you had hard times in the middle of the year, but making sure that you could book your ticket here to Munich?
I mean, yeah, I think we had a lot of motivation, because it was not only we were doing it for us, we also have a really huge crowd behind us. So we had a lot of reasons to try hard. And yeah, I mean, we really did like this split. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Nobody can take that away from you. Now you have the rematch versus G2 though, and I know you have the Fnatic match in kind of your back pocket. How did you reflect on that? And what do you think the chances are that you can make it happen again? Because a lot of people say you don't beat G2 twice, but something tells me that you feel differently.
For sure, I think both series should have been a 3-1 because we had really big advantages in both. And we didn't manage to close it. That has been a problem throughout the whole year. But I'm sure that the power of friendship will be enough today to beat them in a 3-0 sweep, and tomorrow too.
Okay. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shox. You know what? I have a feeling when I hear about Elyoya and the whole fool me once with G2 but not twice, I do feel like if there's someone who can defy expectations yet again, it has to be Elyoya. He came with an insane project with a lot of rookies that not a lot of people believed in, honestly, and he's gonna be here on stage tonight playing against G2 that he defeated 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, you can say whatever you want to Elyoya. That man is confident, 3-0 sweep. Yeah, I mean, Perks used to say, you have to be a bit delusional if you want to win, and I don't know how much that applies to this right here, but you need to come into every game thinking you need to win, and the power of friendship has been what's prevailed with MDK.
Okay, listen.
Go on, Odo.
As a competitor, when I first heard him in, like winter, when they made the roster saying that they're going to go to Worlds with this roster and it's going to be a great roster, I was like, are you sure, bro? Are you sure it's going to happen? And I'm like, I didn't buy it, but now when he's saying just now that he's going to be like, oh, I'm going to 3-0 today and 3-0 tomorrow, I'm like, maybe I believe that, Because I'm like, I got fooled so many times and I was a hater, and now I'm like, maybe I'm on the hype train a little bit, but I'm not.
I wonder, okay, I was going to say, I wonder if that's going to change your prediction later, but probably not.
Ain't no way.
I'm actually wondering, because on one side you have one man with his dream, with the power of friendship, leading his team to playing against G2 today in our first match of our LEC Finals weekend. And on the other side, you have G2 with what has been maybe the pillar of Europe for the past years. Whoever has Caps has the victories. That's what we kept on saying for years. And Caps stacking another MVP trophy this year again. Is it his best year yet, though?
Is it?
Ooh, I feel like
that's what I keep on asking every year.
That's so hard to say, right? Because he's been an MVP so many times for almost as long as I can remember. He's been considered the best mid laner in Europe. There's a reason that G2 stole him from Fnatic back in the day to begin with. So ultimately, I don't know if it's his best year, but it's definitely up there. And he is not somebody that you want to match this weekend because he's real scary.
Yeah, he keeps on surprising for me, Odo. And that's what's the most impressive aspect about Caps, is that we know that he can play anything. We know that he can play in any situation, but we know that he has the abilities to surpass himself every time. And I feel like with G2 changing their approach in draft 2 weeks ago, especially picking him on AD mids again, we got a new Caps, new form, and a new G2 as well.
He's extremely polarizing because he's going through these ups and downs every single year, and yet when it matters, he does show up, and guess what? Today matters. So it's going to be interesting to see what he shows today, because I don't really think that he needs to show anything new, because meta shifted so many times mid lane this year. Mid-series last week, he was like, okay, the Zeri is not working, back to Tristana, something that worked before. He has been playing so many champions throughout his whole career, and he played so many different styles, and with so many different jungler styles and everything happening around him, but yet he still always remains the most polarizing figure that we have in Europe. So I think he's going to be here today to slam.
What I keep on hearing year after year from his teammates, from G2's coaching staff, from everyone, is that as long as Caps has fun, Caps is unstoppable. And when you look at his opposition on the mid lane today, FLICKR, who looks like someone who's having fun as well on really fun matchups and flex picks, that's going to be a challenge in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it, and if there's anyone who want to punish Caps with a lot of AD mid laners right now with the Nasus, well, I have a feeling that might be Friskawi as well, bringing something like that out. The Garens, we are talking about all these wacky picks, and I think we are in for a treat today with the two mid laners, because while a lot of people looked at the first time MDK and Friskawi played against G2, everyone was talking about Murin and the fact he played 5 different champions in that series. Well, guess what? So did Friskawi, and he had a great time against Caps in that series. He's going to have to show up today because he dropped the ball a little bit against Fnatic, and you can't allow that against Caps.
Anything you have to be careful about when you're Friskawi today, not getting caught, I think, would be one of the first ones.
I think ultimately for any player, the most important thing going into the likes of G2 is just being confident in yourself and your team, not overthinking it, and just taking things one step at a time, because Friskawi overall has been a very stable and solid mid laner in the league, which is a big part of why MDK has even made it to this point. But like you just said, in the series against Fnatic and some of the key moments, he had some slivers, he made some mistakes that the likes of Caps wouldn't have made, that could potentially have won them series if he was just slightly better.
Is it lack of experience though, or is it lack of discipline, is what I'm wondering.
I mean, you feel the vibes, honestly. Sometimes you're ahead in the game, you're just going with the flow. There's a good team fight, you already have a gold lead, you feel like you can just take whatever team fight, like you kind of said with G2 as well at one point, and then suddenly you realize, wait, I still have to play the game.
I feel like you can't really put it on experience or criticize as being emotions or anything, because ultimately as a player, when you play the best is when you're, doing the Mad Lions approach where you're just going with the flow. Because when you look at Caps and we're saying, oh, he's the greatest, oh, he's doing this. When he's playing Tristana, he's doing all of these crazy things. I'm like, that's not experience, that's just him feeling himself. And the problem is that he's just feeling himself all the time. So I feel like with Friskawi, that's kind of what he needs to do as well today. And I think he's set up for success just from the environment.
Talk about another lane. Here on the side of G2, we need to touch on the bot lane, because there's been a huge difference between between the AD carry and the support. I feel we'll touch on Mickey a bit later here, but first things first, Hansama, huge improvement in playoffs and season finals.
I'm the biggest Hansama fan. I love him because
I mean, with him, so.
It's a little bit biased.
Okay, guys, I didn't win LEC with him, so I don't love him that much, but I still love him. You know, like for me, he is one of the most improved players that I have seen so far because he's kind of the silent carry in G2's team because when everything started falling apart for G2 and they started picking it back together, you know, the reverse sweep and everything, it has been off of him. He's playing Ashe, he's playing MF, all of these power picks, even against MDK, every single time G2 was in a great position to win that game, was off of him and his insane lane pressure.
No, I completely agree. We went from a discussion saying Hansama can't play the meta right now. He's getting easily banned out in draft. He's not being able to have impact on the map to then in season finals immediately. Like you said, he's suddenly showing up. And he's going to need to show up because when Super and Alvaro has been at their best in 2v2, they've 2v2 killed Hansama and Mickey before. They've had the bot lane pressure, but Hansama is in peak form right now leading up to this season finals. So bot lane, I mean, there's so much.
And he's creating the meta, and what I really want to see today is the fact that MDK has always been banning MF, Ashe, Kalista. There's not enough bans, there's a Draven. Right now, I feel like MDK, for them to win and to shut down Hans as well, they need to invite this sort of bloodiness in the bot lane, which Hans is extremely comfortable with.
I mean, bloodiness in the bot lane, we saw that last week, honestly, but coming from Mickey X, actually, and G2 themselves. Mickey with the most death in season finals. He recovered after that, of course. One game on top Seraphine and he was back on track, but Broxa, oh, that was hard to see. That was hard to watch.
I think Mickey has definitely changed a lot over this year. I remember back in the day when you compared him to Huli, he was like the really stable, consistent guy where Huli had very high highs and lower lows, but ultimately Mickey has really turned into a Huli Sang V2 at this point where we don't fully know what to expect from him, but at the same time, it does feel like he's learned his lesson slightly over the season finals, and especially in the last 2 games against BDS, he really stepped it up and made a difference. And this is a guy that needs to be in peak form for G2 to convincingly win today.
And what I really like is the fact that every support out there, no matter how much you int, there is a reset button. And what's that reset button? Go to the Enchanter support. And after that, he had this game to cleanse himself with Seraphine. And after that, he was back to Leona, back to Nautilus, clean games, not inting as much, finding great engages, and all of a sudden stabilizing. And for me, that's really important because for a player like Mickey, or like any inting support that we have here in EU with Hylissang as well, the fact that you can stop the int mid-series is literally one of the most important things you can do.
Yeah, but even with the current playstyle of both teams, I don't think you can overstate how important it is to free up your supports. Even MDK, when they've been at their best, it's been Alvaro who's been able to link up with Elyoya, put that pressure with Frescawi against the mid lane. When they beat G2, it was purely through Alvaro as well. They had 20% mid proximity from a support, which is extremely high as well, where they just tried to make sure that Caps could not play the game. So for G2's bot lane as well, they can't drop the ball. Last time they were under tower perma, and that just made it so Mickey never had Prio to move first, and that cost G2 or the rest of the map. So that bot lane, they need to find a good matchup.
And I love that you say this, GB, because when we look at the way things went between Mad Lions and G2 last time, they won't have maybe enough time to recover because Mickey dropped the ball rather for the first 2 games against BDS. I don't think you can allow yourself to do this today, especially when you know the opposition.
Ooh, I feel like, you know, in that regard, it's hard to say exactly what's going to happen. But again, like we mentioned earlier, I think ultimately a G2 that has now finally been tested, that has had a lot of opportunity to grow with these official games, you know, they're going to look scary. But MDK can beat them. We've already seen that, so who knows what's going to happen.
And that's what Mickey was saying in an interview I was mentioning earlier, is fool me once, not twice. They got us last time. I don't think they're ready for what's coming today, and he said it himself. I think it's going to be a 3-0.
3-0 is a bit confident, you know, because at the same time, it is MDK. They can still cook a lot, and they have the surprise factor that G2 seems to be struggling with, because right now, I feel like G2 has made all the adaptations to counter what MDK has showed so far. But is it everything that MDK has showed?
Before we jump into our predictions, and I'm going to ask the audience as well what they think about this matchup, but where do you see growth within MDK throughout the year? Again, we're talking about a lineup that no one believed in at the end of the year, and they made it thus far. What made them better? Because they had an amazing first split, and then we were just wondering how they were going to come back up.
I mean, you have to say the mid to late game, their team fighting in general, really. They were a team that struggled with closing out any winning position. They kept juggling the ball. control. Individuals kept getting caught. Honestly, it's the fact that these 5 individuals turned into a team again. It looked like in winter they were locked in, power, friendship, and then suddenly that wasn't there. In spring, in summer, but finally I'm seeing 5 individuals working together again.
And when you look on the side of G2, we said it, maybe their best attempt at the domestic golden road, as we called it. But I don't feel like it's been the classic G2 peaking throughout summer, and especially in season finals, when you consider the first 2 weeks they had in season finals.
Definitely no, because there was always smooth sailing for G2. You would always be like, oh, it's come playoffs, surprise, it's G2 time.
Right.
But right now, them getting knocked down, that's what makes it so interesting. I think it's the first time ever when I'm looking at the season finals and I'm like, I have no idea who's going to win, because MDK is the unbelievable dark horse that we wanted for such a long time. Fnatic randomly in the upper final, which is, typically G2's position, and now G2 having to fight for what they believe is theirs.
Sad that you have no idea who's going to win, because I want to ask your predictions actually. At the desk, who do you think is going to win today, and what would be the scoreline? I think we have the same prediction, GB.
Are we starting out? I mean, we can, yeah. I mean, I'm selfish as well. I'm trying to manifest 5 games. MDK to me in his unknown quantity, but I just feel like G2, they ramp up every single time. They've already made the adjustment, 3-2 to G2.
But you guys are so vanilla. Like, look at Mr. Broxa over here. 3-0 for G2.
That's a base giga chat here.
Tell us about it, Broxa.
Well, I think ultimately playing G2, when the pressure's on in a stadium like this one, they're not going to be matched. I think it's going to be a quick 3-0.
All right. Odo?
Okay, guys, MDK has 1 game cooked. 1 game cooked in the bag, and it's just going to be like that. But for me, G2's adaptations and their growth ever since they lost the last time has been just too much.
What do you want to see in this series? What is the biggest expectation you have coming into today?
Well, I want G2 to kind of pick neutralizing top, enable Hans Sama as much as possible, enable Hans in caps as much as possible, let the full clear and do whatever he's want, and let Mickey, bot lane is the main focal point for me for G2. I think that's where the game is going to break open.
Wrong answer. I want some spice. I want some craziness. I want some awesome draft. Munich, we are moments away from our lower bracket finals. This is the rematch these 2 teams wanted. Can MDK put it up again and make their way to the finals? Or will G2 find the redemption and bring us another El Clasico against the grand finals against Fnatic tomorrow? Let's find out now. It's G2 Esports versus Mad Lions Sky!